The champagne in Maya's glass sparkled under the fairy lights strung across the backyard pergola, soft golden glimmers dancing along the rim. She stood barefoot in the grass, the hem of her emerald silk dress brushing her ankles. The scent of gardenia and lemon cake drifting through the warm evening air. Laughter bubbled from every corner. Cousins, swapping childhood stories. Uncles hovering around the grill, a playlist humming low in the background. This was the kind of night people took pictures of to post online later, hashtagging things like hashtag family first and hashtag blessed. But for Maya, it wasn't just curated joy. It was real. She clinked her glass gently against Daniel's, her husband of 4 years, who stood tall and warm beside her in a navy button-down, sleeves rolled, the top button undone just enough to make him look relaxed and charming. To Brielle and Trevor, Maya said, raising her glass as a hush fell over the crowd. May your engagement be full of love, your planning full of patience, and your future full of everything beautiful. Cheers followed. Brielle, Maya's younger cousin, flushed with joy, nestled under Trevor's arm in her ruffled ivory dress. She beamed at Maya like only family could, like they'd been raised on the same backyard memories. Like trust was just a given. Daniel kissed Maya's temple after the toast. Beautiful, he murmured. Her chest bloomed with pride. They were the couple everyone looked up to, the ones who made marriage look effortless. It hadn't always been easy, but tonight, it felt like they had earned their peace. She floated through conversations with a glass of wine in one hand, Daniel's fingers occasionally brushing her back as he passed by, always close. They shared inside jokes, exchanged knowing looks across the patio. Maya felt golden, wrapped in warmth. Until she saw it, a flicker, a pause too long. It happened by the drinks table, where Daniel stood next to Brielle. Nothing unusual there. They laughed at something, Brielle tossing her head back. Then Daniel leaned in slightly. Nothing dramatic, but something about the way he looked at her. It wasn't family. Maya's stomach didn't drop. It tensed, subtly, sharply. She looked away as fast as she could, her smile never slipping. She told herself she was being ridiculous, tired, tipsy, maybe projecting old ghosts. Daniel loved her. Brielle was like a sister, but when she turned back, Brielle was touching Daniel's arm, lightly, playfully. Her hand lingered. That was new. Maya blinked and told herself not to be petty, not to make something out of nothing, not to let one glance turn a celebration into suspicion. Still, the seed had been planted, buried just beneath her ribs, a tight knot forming. She joined a group of aunts near the buffet table, laughing at a story about someone's disastrous bachelorette party. But even then, her eyes kept drifting back to Brielle, back to Daniel. They were no longer standing together. Brielle had moved across the lawn, chatting with a few friends. Daniel had joined Trevor, talking about fantasy football. No tension. No drama. And yet Maya couldn't shake the feeling. It was in the shift of her breath. The way the night no longer wrapped around her like velvet, but scratched faintly against her skin. Later, as guests began to leave and hugs were exchanged, Maya and Daniel stood near the gate saying their goodbyes. Brielle hugged Maya tightly, murmuring a soft, "Thank you for everything, you're the best." Maya smiled. Always. When Brielle turned to Daniel, Maya watched them closely. Their hug was brief, polite, but she saw it again. The flicker barely there, but there, on the drive home. Maya leaned her head against the window, watching the houses blur by. Daniel hummed along to the radio, his hand resting on the gear shift. Wedding band catching the glow of passing streetlights. "You were amazing tonight," he said. "Everyone adores you." Maya turned to him, studying his profile. Strong jaw, kind eyes, the familiarity of him written into her bones. She smiled. It was a beautiful night, and it was until it wasn't. There were pictures in Maya's childhood photo albums where she and Brielle were matching dresses, sunflower yellow with tiny bows on the shoulders, standing barefoot on their grandmother's porch, grinning with gap-toothed smiles and Kool-Aid stains on their cheeks. They were only 2 years apart, and from the moment Brielle was born, Maya's world expanded. She remembered begging to hold her baby cousin, treating her like a living doll. As they grew, they became inseparable. Sleepovers every weekend, matching pajamas, whispered secrets under glow-in-the-dark stars taped to bedroom ceilings. At 8, they wrote each other sister contracts in glitter pen. At 10, they shared a notebook labeled Top Secret where they wrote down everything from crushes to future wedding plans. Brielle had once told Maya, "I don't need a sister. I have you." Maya had protected Brielle fiercely from bullies, bad breakups, even strict parents when teenage rules felt unfair. She'd braided her hair before school dances, hidden her notes from nosy aunts, and once stayed up all night helping her make posters for student council. Their bond had never needed effort. It was a given, a soft thread woven through years of birthdays, road trips, and family dinners. That's what made everything so hard to question now, because in the present, something didn't feel right. It started subtly. Daniel began working late more often, not unusual, but noticeable. His explanations were smooth. Client drinks ran long, got stuck in traffic, meeting went over, and Maya believed him. She had always trusted him. They were that couple, the stable one, the one others turned to for advice, but then Brielle started texting more. Not Maya. Daniel.Maya saw her name flash on his screen once while they were cooking dinner. Just Brielle, and a preview. Haha, I still can't believe you said that. Maya tilted her head, casually asking, "Everything okay with Brielle?" Daniel didn't look up from the pasta he was stirring. "Yeah, just something funny from the party. She's wild, that was it." He moved on, but the moment lodged itself in Maya's mind like a sliver of glass. She didn't press. She wasn't the jealous type, but a few nights later, Daniel left his phone on the couch. Maya reached for it absent-mindedly to hand it to him, and it buzzed out another message from Brielle. "You make everything more fun, that." One stopped her. Daniel snatched the phone a second later with a too casual, "Thanks." He didn't elaborate, just slipped it into his pocket and changed the subject. Maya didn't say anything that night. She told herself it was nothing. Brielle had always been flirty, playful. It was part of her charm. She flirted with waiters, winked at bartenders, giggled at dad jokes. It didn't mean anything, but when it was directed at her husband, it meant something to Maya, especially when Daniel stopped reaching for her hand as much. When his compliments became less frequent, when their conversations turned more routine, less tender. It was like watching a shadow slowly crawl across the floor, subtle, but impossible to ignore, and it hurt. Because Brielle wasn't just some woman. She was family. Maya sat on their bed one night, scrolling through old photos on her phone. There was one from 3 years ago. Brielle, Maya, and Daniel all on vacation together, laughing in a selfie with ocean waves crashing behind them. Brielle had captioned it, "My favorite people." Maya had believed it. She had let Brielle into every corner of her life, not just because they were family, but because she loved her, trusted her. That's what made the shift so gutting, not just the possibility of betrayal, but the slow erosion of something sacred. And still, Maya said nothing, because confronting it meant saying it aloud, and saying it aloud meant making it real. She wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Instead, she watched. She noticed Daniel texting with a quick flick of his fingers, always turning the screen slightly away. She noticed Brielle avoiding eye contact at family dinners, laughing a little too hard, complimenting Maya's dress while not meeting her. Eyes. It all made Maya feel like she was losing something before she even had proof of it. Like the walls of her safe little world were being repainted behind her back dot, and in that quiet grief, she did what she always did. She remembered the good, the shared sleepovers, the way Brielle used to call her my second big sister, the time she'd whispered through tears after her first heartbreak. "You're the only one I trust." Those moments weren't lies, but now they were being rewritten dot by glances, dot by silences, dot by secrets. And Maya didn't know whether to hold on tighter or start letting go. The lake house had always been a place of peace for Maya. Long afternoons on the dock, the smell of pine and charcoal, wine glasses sweating in the sun, and the echo of laughter skipping across the water. She and Daniel had made memories there. Family birthdays, 4th of Julys, lazy mornings wrapped in flannel and coffee steam dot. This weekend was supposed to be another one of those. A group getaway. Just a few cousins, some wine, and the soft hush of lake air to reset their nerves. Maya had packed light, yoga pants, hoodies, a swimsuit she hadn't worn since last summer. When they arrived, Brielle was already there, barefoot on the porch with a tumbler in hand, greeting everyone with tight hugs and that glittery energy she always carried. The first night passed without incident. They grilled burgers, played card games, and passed around a speaker for song requests. Daniel kept close to Maya, one hand resting on her leg during dinner, the other refilling her glass before she could ask Dot for a few hours. Maya let herself exhale. Maybe she'd been overthinking things, but the next morning, the air changed. She stepped out onto the porch with a mug of tea and saw Brielle standing by the railing, eyes puffy from sleep, hair messy, barefoot dot, and wearing Daniel's HOODIE dot. It was unmistakable. Navy blue, soft with age, with a tiny bleach stain on the cuff. Maya had folded it herself last week. It wasn't just a hoodie. It was his hoodie. Brielle turned and smiled, tugging the sleeves over her fingers. "Don't yell at me," she teased. "I was freezing. Daniel let me borrow this last night after the fire pit." She said it lightly, like it meant nothing, but Maya's fingers tightened around the handle of her mug. "Right," she said, nodding slowly. "Makes sense," Brielle stretched. "I'll give it back." "It's so comfy, though." She disappeared inside. Maya stood there, still as stone, heart thudding loud enough she was sure someone could hear it. She knew that hoodie, knew the softness of it, the warmth it carried. And she knew Daniel, how he never liked people borrowing his things, how he'd once teased her for stretching out the sleeves when she wore it around the house, and yet he'd handed it to Brielle. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Maya laughed when she was supposed to, joined a hike she didn't want to go on, pretended she didn't notice Brielle and Daniel sneaking glances when they thought no one was watching. She went to bed early that night, feigning a headache. Daniel slid into bed beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "You okay?" he murmured. "Just tired," she whispered, but she didn't sleep. Her mind kept circling, not accusing, not certain, just spinning. That's what made it worse. There was no proof, no confrontation, just a hoodie, a look, a laugh that lingered a second too long. The next day, as they packed to head home, Daniel tossed his coat onto the back seat of the car. Maya climbed in, reached for her water bottle, and something slipped from the coat's inner pocket, a receipt. She picked it up, casually at first, expecting a grocery list, a gas station slip, but it wasn't Dot, it was a hotel receipt. The Ritzmore Inn, a single night's stay. Room 406, the date. Last Friday. Maya blinked. Last Friday. Daniel had told her he was in Chicago, a client meeting followed by a late dinner. He hadn't gotten home until after midnight. She stared at the receipt. The hotel was 30 minutes from their home. Not Chicago. Not business. Her throat went dry. Daniel glanced over. "What's that?" She turned slowly. "This was in your coat." He took it, scanned it, then shrugged. Oh, that was for a client dinner. We booked a room last minute so we could work after. One of the guys was flying in early the next morning. Maya nodded, lips tight. You said you were in Chicago? He blinked, then smiled. Was I? Must have mixed up the dates. You know how those weeks blur together? She didn't answer because now it wasn't just a HOODIE dot, it was geography dot lies layered under casual charm. When they got home, Maya went straight to the bedroom and unpacked in silence. Daniel whistled in the kitchen, cracking open a beer, flipping on the game like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong, because now Maya was standing on the line between suspicion and truth. 1 foot in each world dot, and the more she thought about it, the more she realized the cracks weren't just new. They had always been there, but now light was starting to shine through. Maya had always believed that truth had a sound, a scream, a gasp, a shattering, but when it finally arrived, it was silent dot. It came wrapped in a manila envelope, dropped off discreetly by a friend of a friend, a woman Maya had never met before, whose name she wasn't even sure she remembered. A quiet investigator who knew how to find answers without leaving footprints. She had met her once, over coffee, hands shaking as she passed over a photo of Daniel and Brielle at the lake house, casually cropped from the group shot. I want to be wrong, Maya had whispered. I want someone to tell me I'm crazy. The woman hadn't promised her anything, only nodded. You're not crazy. You're just ready to see. And now, 2 weeks later, the envelope sat on Maya's kitchen counter like it might combust. She stared at it for a long time. No music played. No television murmured. Just the steady hum of the refrigerator and the buzz of the world going on outside. As if it didn't know something inside her was about to change forever. She opened it. Slowly dot photos, dozens of them, one after another. Time-stamped and undeniable dot, Daniel and Brielle entering a hotel together. Daniel, hand on her lower back, leading her through the lobby. Brielle laughing in the passenger seat of his car. A coffee date in a part of town Maya had never been to, and the worst. The one that stopped her breath cold. A grainy, zoomed-in shot of them kissing at the edge of a parking garage. Faces half hidden, but unmistakably close. Maya didn't gasp dot, she didn't cry. She didn't scream dot, she just dot. Pain didn't come in a wave. It seeped in like ink into paper. Quiet, permanent, and spreading dot, she placed the photos back inside the envelope with surgical precision. Her movements were calm, measured dot, and when she looked up, something inside her had shifted dot. It wasn't the betrayal that surprised her. It was how unsurprising it was. Like she'd already known. Like her body had braced for impact long before her mind had caught up, she made. T-Dot sat by the window, watched a squirrel dart across the fence like nothing was wrong with the world dot. She thought about Brielle's laugh. How familiar it had once felt. How Maya had learned to braid her hair when they were 9. How they had shared secrets, nail polish, prom dresses. How Brielle had once sobbed in her lap when a boy broke her heart senior year, the same way she was now smiling into Maya's husband's neck. She thought about Daniel, his late nights, his networking dinners, his sudden interest in fitness and cologne, how he used to kiss her forehead without thinking, and how lately, even that had felt rehearsed, Maya didn't crumble. She didn't throw anything. She didn't call anyone. She began to plan, because grief, she realized, was an indulgence she couldn't afford. Not yet. What she needed now was control. She opened her laptop, created a folder named Exit Plan. She began with the practical, the lease, the accounts, the passwords. She made lists in 3 columns: emotional, financial, legal. She set up a new bank account in her name only, changed the password on her cloud drive, scanned their pre and UP. Each step brought a strange kind of calm, like she was not just reacting, she was rebuilding. Piece by piece. Quietly. Powerfully. The betrayal didn't need an audience. It had already played out behind her back for long enough. Now, her silence would be the loudest thing in the room. She boxed up the envelope and tucked it away in the back of her closet, behind a stack of winter sweaters. Not to forget it, but to remind herself. She didn't need to wave it in their faces to make it real. The proof was hers now, and it hurt. Quieter than screams, it stung in the marrow, not the muscle. It lived in the spaces between words, in the tightening of her jaw when Daniel said he was working late, in the slight flinch when Brielle sent a text with too many emojis, but she showed nothing, because Maya had learned something more powerful than confrontation. Patience. Let them laugh. Let them lie. She had a plan now, and soon it would be their turn to hear the silence. Maya had always been good at pretending as a child. She played house with a plastic ring and a smile wide enough to stretch over sadness. As a teenager, she'd learned how to fake laughs at jokes that hurt. And now, as a woman betrayed by two people she once loved, she found herself slipping into character once more. Only this time, the performance was for her freedom. She didn't flinch when Brielle sent a selfie in her wedding dress, beaming in white lace. She didn't hesitate when Daniel leaned in to kiss her cheek before leaving for an early meeting. She played her part perfectly. The smile on her face was soft but unshakable, like porcelain. Like armor at dinner with friends, she poured wine and laughed at stories, asking questions, nodding in the right places. No one noticed her fingers flexing beneath the tablecloth, grounding herself. No one saw the small notebook in her purse, where she jotted down every questionable charge on their joint credit card, hotels, dinners, ride shares near Brielle's apartment. She began collecting. Not confronting receipts, screenshots, message backups. Anything that told the story they hoped she would never discover. Maya was building her case, not for court, but for closure. Daniel had grown careful. He no longer left his phone on the charger overnight. He came home earlier, sat through meals, smiled when she asked about work, but Maya saw it, the way his eyes scanned hers, checking for signs. The way he overcompensated, like a man cleaning fingerprints from a glass he already broke. And Brielle? She was practically glowing. 39 days. She squealed over brunch, holding her phone out to Maya. Can you believe it? You'll be standing right next to me? Maya smiled. Of course. You're still okay with the blush dress, right? And the flower crown? It's so you. It's perfect, Maya said, her tone light. Just like you, Brielle beamed. I'm so lucky. You're like the sister I always dreamed of. Maya sipped her coffee and said nothing. In the evenings, she would return home and open her laptop like a ritual. She reviewed joint assets, updated her password vault, created backup copies of every document, and stored them on an external drive labeled Winter Recipes. She spoke to a lawyer discreetly, through an old friend who owed her a favor. Nothing official yet, just hypotheticals. Just curiosity. What do you want? The lawyer asked over the phone. Maya didn't miss a beat. Clean, she said. I want it clean. No courtroom drama. No public mess. Just a signature, a split, and silence. She planned it like a dinner party. Elegant, precise, unforgettable. Every day, she refined the details, the timing, the location, the documents. She practiced her tone, her posture, her exit. She even began quietly transferring her personal items, a book here, a framed photo there, to a storage unit under her maiden name. Meanwhile, Daniel kept trying, not to fix things, but to preserve the illusion. He sent her flowers once. Red roses. A card that read, "To my constant." She placed them in a vase and watered them daily. Even as they wilted, Brielle, too, kept texting, asking for advice on centerpieces, sending rehearsal dinner playlists, even joking, "Daniel's not allowed to upstage me, okay? You keep him in check." Maya replied with heart emojis, and every time she did, a part of her hardened because she wasn't just pretending to be fine. She was protecting her. Exit. She knew that confronting them now would make it messy. They'd scramble. They'd spin it. They'd muddy the waters with excuses and fake tears. But if she held her pose long enough, let them believe she was blind, naive, loving, she could choose the day, the hour, the moment, and they wouldn't see it coming. The only tell was the smile that didn't shake Dot. It never faltered at dinners or brunches or during calls with her mother. It was steady, elegant, the kind that couldn't possibly belong to a woman unraveling because she wasn't. She was constructing something quiet, sharp, impeccably timed one night. As she folded laundry while Daniel watched TV in the next room, Maya found one of his socks mixed with hers. She paused, then placed it in a separate basket. Even the small things, she thought. Even now. Later, she stood at the bathroom sink, removing her earrings with slow, deliberate movements. Her reflection stared back, unblinking. She didn't look like a woman preparing to detonate her marriage. She looked like a woman already gone, but the house was still quiet. The ring was still on her finger, the smile still in place, and the truth? It lived beneath it, all Dot, waiting for the perfect day to rise. Maya sealed the RSVP envelope with a smile. The card was pale ivory, elegant, adorned with calligraphy swirls that read Brielle and Aaron together forever. The irony wasn't lost on her. She filled out her response, will attend, in crisp, measured strokes. There was no trembling in her hand. No hesitation. It was the last performance she'd ever give. She dropped the envelope into the mailbox just after dawn, when the world was still quiet and dew clung to every surface. The act felt ceremonial, like the first domino tipped in a long, calculated row. As the box swallowed the RSVP whole, she exhaled, not from nerves, but from clarity. Brielle would get what she wanted. Maya standing at the altar beside her, all smiles and flowers and sisterly support. But that wasn't all she'd be getting. Back at home, Maya opened her laptop. The divorce documents were already finalized, each page reviewed and notarized. It had taken weeks of careful work, untangling finances, clarifying ownership, calculating the cleanest, sharpest cut. Her attorney had been thorough, discreet, exactly what Maya needed. She scheduled a delivery for the wedding day. The gift would arrive at the venue just before the ceremony, hand-delivered, signature required. The box was wrapped in the same blush pink as the bridesmaids' dresses. A white satin ribbon tied neatly on top. And inside, resting above the manila envelope that held Daniel's signed divorce papers, was a handwritten note in Maya's delicate script. Here's something borrowed. You can keep him. The box had been custom ordered. Sturdy, lined with velvet, the kind used for luxury watches or heirloom jewelry, because some betrayals deserved a presentation. She imagined Brielle's fingers untying the bow, her perfect bridal nails peeling back the paper, expecting something sentimental from her cousin-turned-sister, and instead, her reality. Maya didn't relish the idea of pain. She wasn't vindictive, but she believed in symmetry. They had both lied to her face. Shared smiles over brunch, whispered their betrayal in hotel rooms while texting her, love you, before bed. They had earned this. The same day, Brielle would wear white and promise forever. Maya would be signing her freedom into law. She thought about sending the gift anonymously, let it land like a ghost from a past they thought buried. But no, Maya wanted it to be clear. Not to spark drama. Not to cause a scene. To end one. Her name would be on the card. No venom. No threats. Just truth. Her lawyer had raised an eyebrow when she'd asked about the delivery. You want it there on the wedding day? Yes, she said simply. He nodded. You're calm about all this. I've had time, she replied. And now, so will they. With the documents scheduled, she turned to the final detail, her appearance. Maya chose a dress for the wedding that was understated, elegant slate blue silk that draped like water over her frame. She booked a hair appointment, soft waves pinned back with a pearl clip. She would look like serenity, like grace, like a woman untouched by chaos. She would not cry. She would not confront. She would simply be present, physically and symbolically, for the moment her marriage ended and Brielle's began. The days leading up to the wedding passed in a blur of preparation. Brielle's messages grew frantic. Do you think white peonies are too much? I can't believe it's finally happening. You've been so amazing through all of this. I don't know what I'd do without you. Maya answered every message with care. I think they'll look beautiful. You deserve a perfect day. I'm happy for you. Each word meticulously chosen. Each lie. Her last. Daniel was cautious but comfortable. He'd fallen for Maya's calm, misread it as defeat. He didn't know she'd already redirected her direct deposit to her own account. Didn't notice the missing wedding photo from her nightstand. Didn't see that the framed Mr. and Mrs. sign had quietly disappeared from the hallway. Maya didn't need a storm to mark her exit. Just a box. Just a ribbon. Just timing. The night before the wedding. She sipped chamomile tea in her quiet kitchen, watching moonlight spill across the floor. Her dress hung from the bedroom door frame, her heels waiting beside it. She'd written a toast, brief, warm, appropriate. No one would suspect a thing, not until the box arrived, and by then it would be too late for apologies. Too late for justifications. Too late to unravel what they had tried so hard to keep hidden. Maya wasn't interested in their guilt. She was reclaiming her peace. She slipped into bed with the ease of a woman who knew exactly what she was doing and why. Because sometimes justice didn't need a courtroom. It just needed an address and a bow. The ballroom pulsed with joy. Champagne flutes clinked. A string quartet played something soft and forgettable, and candles flickered in tall crystal holders. Laughter bounced off the vaulted ceilings. Brielle beamed under the fairy lights, her white gown glittering with each step as she moved from table to table. Soaking in her spotlight. Daniel stood near the head table, drink in hand, the image of a man who thought he'd won. And then the gifts arrived. 2 boxes, delivered by a suited courier with a clipboard and a neutral expression. One was handed to Brielle just as her maid of honor was clinking her glass to get the room's attention. The other was placed beside Daniel's chair, marked with his name in bold black ink. Brielle's eyes lit up at the sight of the blush wrapping and satin ribbon. Oh, Maya sent a gift, she said, loud enough for the nearest table to hear. She couldn't make it, but she sent something special. She untied the ribbon delicately, flashing her perfect smile to a guest filming on their phone. Inside was the velvet-lined box. A moment later, the envelope. The laughter didn't stop right away. Not until Brielle unfolded the note and read it. Here's something borrowed. You can keep him. Her face drained. The music kept playing, oblivious. Brielle blinked once, twice, then reached back into the box with trembling fingers and pulled out the envelope. Beneath the card, a thick stack of legal documents, signed, notarized, and final. Her hands shook as she fumbled through the pages. Her eyes scanned faster and faster, but the words didn't change. Divorce papers, from Maya to Daniel. Brielle dropped the papers. The room watched them float down like feathers, the silence growing thick. A gasp broke from somewhere near the cake table. Someone whispered, "What is that?" Then another voice, "Is that ... real?" As the note passed from hand to hand, the room turned. All eyes shifted to Daniel. He had opened his own box moments earlier, more cautious, more aware. The moment he saw the first page, his glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. He stood frozen, mouth slightly open, as if trying to calculate how quickly a man could disappear inside a tuxedo. Brielle looked up at him then, eyes wide. Betrayal painted across her face like a second veil. "What did you do?" She hissed, voice tight and trembling. He didn't answer. He couldn't, because the room was no longer with them. The whispers were growing louder, the heat of judgment crawling up his neck. Mutual friends exchanged stunned looks. A cousin covered her mouth. An aunt shook her head slowly. "Maya?" Someone asked. "Where's Maya?" But Maya wasn't there. She was already gone, miles away. The ocean stretched wide and unbothered, the waves curling gently against a quiet beach. Maya sat barefoot on a blanket, her feet tucked beneath her, a glass of wine in hand. The bottle sat in the sand beside her, condensation running down the glass like it had nowhere to be. She wore a light linen dress, her hair braided back. A book unopened beside her. Her phone buzzed. Again, and again. She didn't check it. She was watching the sunset, soft tangerine bleeding into violet, the kind of sky that made you believe in clean slates. In her mind, she could picture it all. Brielle's trembling fingers, Daniel's stunned silence, the chaos blooming like a slow-motion car crash. She imagined the silence falling over the guests like fog. The way people would replay the moment over and over. Did you see her face? Did you hear what the note said? Maya sipped her wine. She wasn't hiding. She was healing. Back at the wedding, Brielle had left the room, her dress dragging behind her, tears spilling down as she pushed through the exit. Daniel followed, fumbling an explanation, but the damage was already done. No one chased them. The guests lingered in uncomfortable clusters, unsure if they should leave or wait for the reception to resume. Someone turned off the music. A friend tried to make a joke that fell flat. Eventually, chairs scraped against the floor. Purses were collected. Quiet goodbyes were exchanged. The wedding had ended not in vows or cheers, but in a broken rhythm of confusion and whispered apologies. Later that evening, someone posted a photo of the note on a private Instagram story. Another uploaded a blurry clip of Brielle dropping the papers. Within hours, it spread through the friend group like wildfire. The story became legend. And through it all, Maya remained unreachable, not because she was running, but because she had already arrived. She leaned back against a driftwood log, the salt air curling around her shoulders, and breathed in the simplicity of peace. No courtroom drama, no screaming matches, no theatrics. Just a clean, elegant undoing and a sky that didn't need anyone's permission to be beautiful. She thought of Brielle, her childhood best friend, her almost sister, and felt a flicker of something. Not anger, not griefed-out release. Let them sort through the wreckage. Let them explain themselves to each other, to the family, to the mirror. Mia had no more roles to play in their story. This was her new beginning. Phone buzzed again. She turned it off, then leaned forward, dipped her toes in the cool sand, and whispered to herself, not with spite, but with certainty, "I don't need to be in the room to change it." The day after the wedding imploded, Maya's phone became a battlefield. Texts poured in from every corner of her life. High school friends, distant cousins, old co-workers who had somehow been at the wedding or heard through the grapevine. Her screen lit up with paragraphs that either applauded her or condemned her. "You're my hero." That was savage. "I'm still shaking. You could have handled it privately. You know, she's your cousin, Maya. You didn't have to humiliate them." Maya read most of them without reaction. Her thumb moved steadily, message after message, the words no longer hitting like arrows, but bouncing off something quieter, something steadier. Her therapist had once said, "Closure isn't loud. It's the moment you stop needing to explain." And Maya had stopped explaining. Brielle called twice that morning. Both calls went unanswered. The third time, Maya blocked the number. It wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. There was nothing left to say to someone who could look you in the eye one day and lie the next. Someone who grew up sharing bedsheets and secrets, only to sleep with the one person you promised your future to. A betrayal like that didn't deserve closure. It deserved absence. Daniel, on the other hand, didn't call. He emailed, subject line, "Please just read this." The message was long. Apologetic, desperate in some places, defensive in others. He tried to rewrite the story, said it wasn't what it looked like, that it had only happened once, that it was a mistake born from confusion and vulnerability. Didn't finish it. She stopped halfway through the third paragraph, where he started to frame himself as a man lost. Trapped in the shadow of our perfect image, she closed the email, archived it, then, in a moment of finality, moved it to a folder called Unnecessary. There would be no long talk, no reunion coffee, no dramatic doorstep plea. She wasn't interested in dragging the broken pieces back out too. Examined. She had already swept the floor. Instead of replying to anyone, Maya opened her journal. She wrote a single sentence, "I am allowed to heal without permission." That evening, she started therapy, not because she was falling apart, but because she refused to. She wanted to understand how someone like Brielle had slipped past her instincts, how Daniel's lies had gone undetected for so long, how trust could be weaponized and loyalty could be used as camouflage. Her therapist was soft-spoken and sharp. She listened without judgment, offering observations rather than advice. "You're not cold," she said in their second session. "You're protecting warmth. That takes more strength than people realize." Maya nodded. She hadn't cried since the photos, since the proof, since the moment everything she feared became fact, not because she didn't hurt, but because her pain had matured. It no longer needed an audience. She remembered a text from a friend the night before. "Girl, the way you just disappeared from the mess. Power move, maybe it was." But to Maya, it wasn't about power. It was about peace. Brielle's mother had sent a passive-aggressive message too. "I hope one day you understand what you've done to this family." Maya had laughed at that. Not out loud, just one of those breathy, disbelieving exhales. What she'd done? She hadn't broken the family. She just refused to stay broken inside it. In therapy, she talked about the years she spent shrinking, being the accommodating one, the easygoing one, the one who absorbed tension so others didn't have to feel it. And for what? To be cheated on by her husband and betrayed by her cousin. To be told she was overreacting when her intuition flared. To be painted as cruel when she finally set boundaries. Maya wasn't cruel. She was clean. She had chosen a version of closure that didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't wait for approval, didn't dress itself in softness so others could be comfortable. She walked through the wreckage once. She wouldn't go back to tour it. A week passed. Then the noise began to fade. People moved on to other dramas. The wedding video was quietly taken down from social media. Daniel's LinkedIn profile was updated. Single, not seeking. Brielle deactivated her Instagram. Maya returned to her life. She took longer walks, cooked meals that tasted like care, rearranged her apartment so the energy flowed differently, lighter, less haunted. She ordered a new set of sheets, donated the couch they'd bought together, started sleeping diagonally across the bed. The therapist once said, "There's no revenge more powerful than a woman who rebuilds in silence." And Maya was rebuilding. Not loudly, not for show, but for herself. She kept the photo of the sunset from the beach day, the night she sent the gifts, as her phone wallpaper. Not because it was the moment she broke them, but because it was the moment she reclaimed herself. People still talked, occasionally, at dinners, at brunch, in group chats she wasn't in anymore. Some still called her cold, but she'd made peace with that label, because the truth? She was colder now, but only toward those who lit the match and blamed her for the fire. And cold isn't cruel. Cold is quiet, measured. Clear. Cold doesn't beg. Cold doesn't burn. Cold closes the door, locks it gently, and walks away with her shoulders squared and her spine intact. Maya didn't just burn the bridge, she built a better one. Elsewhere, sturdier, hers alone. That wasn't bitterness, that was healing. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday, tucked in a manila envelope like any other piece of legal mail. Nothing about the delivery felt cinematic. No dramatic courier, no wax seal of finality. Just paperwork, stiff. Silent. Maya held the envelope for a moment before opening it, letting the weight of it rest in her palm. There were no tears, no trembling hands. Just a quiet breath and a pen already chosen, gold ink, gleaming against the plain black and white text. She didn't sign her name with anger. She signed it with elegance, precision. Freedom didn't have to scream. She took a photo of the signature, not to post, not to send, just to remember. Then she filed the papers in a folder labeled Freedom. It joined a growing collection. Receipts from therapy, the printed email she never replied to, a list of affirmations she wrote the night after the wedding, and the very first sketch of her design studios. Logo. Because yes, Maya had started over. Not overnight, not in some grand announcement, but steadily. It began with her apartment. She stripped the bedroom of its memory. New curtains, new sheets, new lighting. She swapped out the plates Daniel liked for ones she chose on instinct, clay-colored, imperfect, real. She painted the walls in soft olive and cream tones, lined the bookshelves with intention, and donated the couch he once insisted they compromise on. There was no more compromising, not in space. Not in silence. She created a small home office in what used to be a walk-in closet. Nothing fancy. Just a desk, a laptop, a corkboard full of magazine clippings and swatches. Wilder North Design Co. That's what she called it. Her last name remained. Monroe for now, but everything else had shifted. Clients found her through word of mouth at first. Then Instagram. Then a local wedding planner hired her to style a venue, and suddenly Maya had a waiting list. Her specialty? Atmospheres that felt like memories. Earth tones. Worn wood, brass accents. Spaces that whispered instead of shouted. She wasn't chasing a trend. She was creating emotion. Sometimes, late at night, Maya would look around her apartment, candles lit, records playing, and marvel at how stillness could feel like strength. She didn't rush to date. Didn't sign up for 3 apps at once, or go on a revenge binge of look dash how dash desirable dash I dash aim rebounds. Instead, she let it happen naturally. A man at a farmer's market offered to carry her flat of herbs. They talked about mint tea and citrus. His name was Jonah. He didn't ask too many questions. Just listened and laughed at her sarcasm. They exchanged numbers. He didn't call right away. And that was fine. She wasn't waiting anymore. She was living. Maya began walking to the cafe near her studio every morning. The baristas knew her order, cinnamon latte, light foam, and smiled like she was part of the place. The city, which once felt cold and indifferent, now felt like a secret she was learning to speak. One morning, while organizing her files, she found an old photo of her and Brielle. Matching blue dresses. Age 10. Arms looped like vines. She didn't cry. She simply placed it in an envelope and slid it to the back of her drawer, not erased. But archived. Forgiveness, she had learned, wasn't the same as reconciliation. You could make peace without reopening the door. She still received messages sometimes. Distant acquaintances tagging her in design articles. Former clients leaving reviews. A cousin texting a heart emoji with no context. But Brielle never reached out again. Daniel didn't. Either. Maybe they had their own rebuilding to do. Or maybe they never expected Maya to rise the way she did. Silent, clean, radiant. It didn't matter. Because Maya had stopped measuring her worth by their recognition. She didn't need applause. She had alignment. Her therapist once asked her, "What does healed look like to you?" Maya thought for a while, then answered, "It looks like a quiet room where I'm not scared of my own thoughts." And now, she had that room. Several, actually. Her studio expanded. She hired a part-time assistant. She started mentoring younger women trying to break into design. She donated a portion of her profits to a shelter for women transitioning out of toxic relationships. Not because she was trying to be a saint, because she remembered what it felt like to be stuck, and she never wanted another woman to feel trapped in silence like she once did. Maya's reflection looked different these days. Not because of makeup or haircuts or filtered selfies, but because the light in her eyes was her own. Not borrowed, not dimmed. She had stopped performing stability. She had built it, one boundary at a time. One choice at a time. One golden signature that turned an ending into a beginning. And the best part? There was no audience required. Just Maya. Living. Breathing. Unapologetic. Ally hers. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, and smelled faintly of vanilla. It arrived tucked among bills and circulars. Addressed to Maya Reeves in looping calligraphy that clearly wasn't handwritten, probably a font Brielle found online. The weight of it gave it away before Maya even opened it. Some things carried the same energy, no matter how carefully dressed up. She didn't rip it open. She peeled the seal with care. Not out of sentiment, but because she already knew what was inside. A wedding invitation. Again. Briella and Daniel. Celebration of second chances. A vow renewal surrounded by close friends and family. An intimate backyard gathering to honor a love that endured. Maya didn't laugh. She blinked. Sat back on the edge of her couch, the invitation trembling between her fingers. A year ago, this would have gutted her. Now, it just made her quiet. Second chances. They made it sound like romance had won. Like lies had been worth it. Like betrayal had bloomed into something beautiful, not just desperate. The invitation was laced with desperation, and not the subtle kind. The font screamed forced elegance. The venue was someone's backyard, no location name, just an address in smaller print. And the guest list? Maya already knew it had shrunk. Most of their mutuals had drifted away, tired of the awkwardness, the side-picking, the fallout. She wondered what the ceremony would look like. Brielle in a second-hand dress, Daniel with a smile that didn't quite meet his eyes. Maybe there'd be fairy lights, mason jars, apologies that didn't reach far enough. Maya didn't RSVP. She folded the invitation back into its envelope, placed it in the drawer where she kept expired coupons and batteries she wasn't sure still worked, and then she booked a flight, not out of spite, out of tradition. Her own tradition, because last year she had marked that wedding day with a quiet sunset and a glass of red wine. This year, she'd mark it with something better, a new place, a new rhythm, a day that belonged to her. Maya packed light. Linen dresses, paperbacks, one good bottle of perfume. She chose a coastal town she'd once circled in a travel magazine. Cliffs, sea breezes, not much WI-V. The kind of place where no one knew her name. No one whispered, "Did you hear what she did?" No one pitied her. No one thought of her as the girl who left a wedding in flames. Arrived the morning of the vow renewal, while Brielle fluffed her hair in someone's bathroom mirror and Daniel adjusted his second-hand tie. Maya walked barefoot across a sun-warmed patio, a flute of champagne in hand, music playing softly through open windows. There were string lights here too, but they weren't for decoration. They were part of the air, woven in like memory and salt. She danced, not performatively. Not for anyone watching, just her. Swaying slowly under the shade of olive trees, her skin glowing from the sun and the freedom. She laughed once gently at the absurdity of it all. That Brielle thought an invitation would earn closure. that Daniel thought time erased architecture, that the two of them had taken the wreckage they created and tried to rebuild something photogenic. But Maya had stopped living for photographs. She lived for quiet mornings now, for solo dinners with a book in one hand and wine in the other, for the sound of her own laughter when no one else was around. She took a photo that afternoon, her feet up on the patio railing, champagne beside her, ocean just past the cliffs, no caption, no filter, no mention of where she was or why. She didn't need anyone to know, especially not them. She imagined the backyard scene, Daniel sweating through his collar, Brielle scanning the crowd for old friends who no longer showed up. The fake laughter, the tight smiles, the polite clapping. A ceremony built on rot, painted over like a rented wall dot, and meanwhile, Maya danced not in revenge, but in release. She toasted herself that night with a quiet clink against the glass. To peace, she said aloud. And to RSVPing to myself, the stars blinked back. The ocean HUMMED. No partner. No betrayal. Just her. The version of her that once cried into pillows she couldn't afford to replace. She was gone now, grown into someone whole, and if Daniel ever reached out again, or if Brielle ever tried to talk things through, Maya already knew what she'd say. Nothing. She wouldn't even answer the door, because healing didn't mean reopening. Closure wasn't an RSVP. It was a boundary, and she had finally, beautifully learned how to draw one dot, so she finished her drink, took one last barefoot spin beneath the fairy lights, and smiled. Not for the camera. Not for a man. Not for a crowd. Just for herself. And that, finally, was enough.